Hey, deserving listeners, it's time to continue watching 90 Day Fiancé. Let's get to the show.
I really wish she was here. There's all these families playing on the beach over here. Makes me think of hopefully one day starting a family with Amira. Having beach days like this. But for now, I'm gonna go test the ocean.
So now the rest of the season, we're just going to watch Andrew hanging out at a resort in Puerto Vallarta, which I have to say would be a mixed bag. I'm just trying to think, well, you're on a resort, it's great, but then if you're by yourself, that sounds pretty miserable, honestly. But I don't know, maybe he'll have a good time.
I'm here in Puerto Vallarta. I wish Amira was here with me.
This is exactly what I was looking for today.
But now that Amira is safe, the least I can do is do a little bit of self-care and make the best of this situation.
So I'm guessing that the audience reaction to this is what a jerk face, because he basically coerced or forced Amira to coming to Mexico and said, if you love me, then you'll come to Mexico. And if you don't come to Mexico and see me, then you don't really love me and I'm going to break up with you. And Amira talked a lot about that, how she felt like she was being forced to go during a pandemic and during a lockdown in terms of travel. And she takes a risk against what she wanted to do to please him. And then she gets put in prison in Mexico for a few days. I don't know if we call it prison, but a holding cell, I would call it a prison, is detained. And then she flies back to France. And on one level, we would say, well, he paid for the trip. He might as well make the most of it and have self-care, as he says. On the other hand, did he communicate to her that he was sorry? Did he apologize? Did he give empathy to her? Did he say, is there anything I can do? What do you want me to do here? Because at least the way that the show is presenting it to us, it seems like he doesn't care. He doesn't really care about her feelings and is only concerned with him. That the fact that she couldn't get to him in Puerto Vallarta, that was upsetting because he wanted access to her, or he wanted his needs to be met. But when she was inconvenienced, he didn't apologize. Now, there are two different possibilities, and we don't really know if that's true, but if that is true, there are two different possibilities that I would think about. One is that he is someone that just doesn't have the capacity to care about other people or has empathy impaired. There are certainly a lot of people like that. It's usually because of childhood relational traumas, and that's the cause of it. The other possibility is that he has a complex with guilt and shame. And when we do things that are bothersome to other people and we feel that shame of we have disappointed someone, some of us have a defense of just acting like it didn't happen because our shame is so deep that we don't know what to do with that shame. And so we just try to deny it and say, well, you know, it's not my fault. What am I supposed to do? So that could be another reason why he's coming across that way. But anyway, maybe they'll show us conversations, communication, where he's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Is it okay if I just enjoy myself? I don't know what to do. We haven't really seen much communication between the two of them.
I really wish you were here. Last night I went to this amazing steakhouse and you would have loved it.
That's why you don't come back home.
Why? You want me to go home?
I've been trying to make the most of it, but it feels empty a little bit without you. I got a walk-in tour on Saturday, and then I got a boat tour on Tuesday.
The way they're presenting it to us, and who knows, but it certainly looks this way, that he doesn't either care or show that he cares about the traumatic ordeal that she went through. To be put in a holding cell in another country without access to the outside world when you've done nothing wrong is a terrifying prospect, right? You don't know, am I going to be held here for months? What's going on here? Am I going to be hurt by someone? I'm completely defenseless here. And that's a traumatic event. It could literally be the worst 3 days of Amira's life, which, would make total sense to me. And for him to not spend a good amount of time apologizing and tending to that and asking her about that shows either he doesn't care or he doesn't know how to show he cares or something. Again, as I've been saying, there's nothing wrong with him saying, well, I paid for it and I don't think he earns that much money, so I might as well enjoy it. But you can do that and really spend a lot of time caring for Amira and what she went through and apologizing that you were the one that essentially forced her to do it in the first place, right?
I got many things planned. You can't get bored there.
Oh,
I'm feeling lonely. He's vacationing, so there's no room for me to open up about what happened to me anymore.
Okay, so that seems to indicate for her that he didn't give her the empathy and care and apologies that she felt like she deserved. I don't know, but it certainly sounded that way, right?
I'm really hoping that we can activate that visa, baby.
Yeah, but what to do? It looks like the US is gonna stay closed from what I read online. So what do you think?
we got, I think, less than 40 days to use this visa. The countdown is real.
Now, we're seeing a little bit of the dynamic between the two of them where she's not saying, hey, by the way, I feel like you're being a jerk face for not really paying attention to what I went through. You're not really asking me a lot of questions. You're not apologizing. She's not asserting what I think is going on in her heart. So what's going on there? Is it because she feels like he won't listen, he doesn't care, so what's the point? Is it her style of communicating with people? Is it her style of asserting herself? Does she have relational traumas around people discounting her and abandoning her, and she feels like she doesn't deserve to be cared about? I don't know. It could be any of those things and many other things, but it is notable that she's not saying, hey, I'm hurt that you don't seem to care about what I went through, and you don't seem to care that you're the one that put me in this position to begin with. I mean, she'd be perfectly in the right to say something like that, but this conversation is very much her just being light and, oh, you're vacationing, what's going on, that kind of thing.
If we don't get an extension and the borders don't open up, I mean, we may have to do this all over again in another country.
And I will say that I've worked with people in the way that I'm framing one possibility for Amira and helped them to become more assertive with people like the way that we might think that Andrew might be. Let me divorce it from them too, because I don't really know what the situation is with them. But I have worked with people who were in a relationship with someone who might be framed as narcissistic or uncaring and would not care about their feelings, would impose their will on the other person, would really not want this person to speak up, and then that person comes to me. And it takes a long time to get in touch with themselves, to learn that they matter, to learn that in order to get your needs met, you have to speak up. But they speak up and then they get pushback from the narcissistic person or the person who seems to have some trouble with empathy. And it doesn't solve their problem. When the person speaks up, it doesn't solve the problem. But we go on a campaign of a couple years, maybe. I usually will recommend that couples therapy happens as well. Sometimes I'm the one that's working with the couple and the two individuals are in individual therapy. And we can work on it. It's fixable. It's related to past traumas, but it's fixable for sure. So I don't know. I don't know if they're in that situation, but I just thought I'd mention that. I guess I'm mentioning it because if you're one of those people out there who has a hard time asserting yourself and you see a little bit of yourself in Amira, there is a path forward. Even if you're in a relationship where you feel intimidated, there's a way forward that involves you becoming assertive and the other person learning how to create space for other people. And actually, it's a better relationship for both people. Both people usually make this agreement of like, okay, I'll be the passive one and you'll be the dominant one. And they usually make that agreement subconsciously or sometimes consciously because they're trying to get at least some love and some attention and some closeness in their life. It doesn't feel great, but it's better than what they think is the alternative. And then when they go to therapy for a few years, then they can actually graduate to this other form where they're actually more equal and they have even more intimacy and more safety even. So there's a path forward, I guess, is my point, but it's much easier said than done. Just saying I'm going to be assertive or learning how to be assertive, for example, doesn't necessarily fix the overall problem. So I just wanted to give hope, but also understand that it takes a long time and can be complicated.
I will not be you. It will be me only that has to do that. I've been through so much already. And the fact that he's considering that option for me to go there by myself, struggle again, I'm speechless.
So at least the way they're presenting it to us, it certainly does seem callous and uncaring for him to say, well, hey, it's running out soon. I'm putting pressure on you to try it again and maybe be detained again, without any consideration for her feelings from what happened in the past or her worries of what happened in the future, without any flexibility around, hey, I do not want to put you in a position where you will be detained again. And this visa, the 40-day thing, given that we're in a lockdown situation right now, let's just forget it. Like we'll do a K-1 visa after this whole thing is over. But for now, I don't want you to travel anymore because it would kill me if you got detained again somewhere. So I think we're just going to have to make do with a long-distance relationship for now and only travel when we absolutely know it's safe. He could say something like that, right? Now, maybe for him, he is just so desperate for closeness and affection that he can't see the woods for the trees. So maybe there's a reason for that. But now we always have to wonder, are they editing it in a way that gives us that narrative? We've certainly seen that before. So who knows? But it certainly is being presented to us in that way.
I am still tired. I'm still recovering and healing from it. It shouldn't be like we jump to another country, wherever it is, and you just decide to make me go there by myself. It's like he doesn't really see what I'm going through.
So we're seeing a little bit about their dynamic and the way that they communicate to each other. And I think it's actually complex. The way that they are communicating, I'm really curious as to what's going on in his mind. We know what's going on in her mind because she's providing these interviews outside of this conversation. But I wonder what's going on in his mind. Does he feel bad? Does he not feel bad? Is he putting pressure on her? Is he not putting pressure on her? Is he just talking out loud? Does he process things, because I could see a scenario, in addition to the things I've been saying already, where he does process things out loud and he's saying something like, oh, there's only 40 more days on this K-1 visa thing, and it was hard to get to begin with, and I just don't know what to do about that, because if we don't get married in that time, it might not ever happen again. I don't know. And in his mind, he might just be saying, I'm just exploring it out loud. And she might be receiving it as a pressure for her to travel again. And he might not be intending it to be that way. I don't know, though. There's just a lot of unknowns at this point. There's certainly a lot of things pointing, at least in the way that they present it, that there's something going on with his ability to care or know the experience of other people. It certainly kind of looks that way, but I don't know.
I love Andrew, and I know right now he's pushing me hard to go to the US, but I'm hesitating. Now that I've talked to my dad and I hear that he has only negative things to say about Andrew, I feel torn. The more Andrew is pushing me, the more I'm questioning, does he really want the best for me?
Right. At the very least, we can say that Amira is receiving it as though he doesn't care, as though Andrew doesn't care about her. At the very least, we can say that it's coming across to her that way, even though we're not there for all the conversations. And so that points definitely in a direction of something. Either he doesn't have the capacity to care as much as Amira would hope for, or he has a really hard time communicating about that, or he's distracted by something else that impairs his empathy for other people. That's an important thing that maybe I should talk about just for a little bit, is that when you experience people that seem to have a lack of empathy, there's a temptation to call them a psychopath, or the internet will call them a sociopath, or antisocial, or a malignant narcissist. You'll see all these terms being thrown around. But it's unclear what sort of personality problem the person has. I just want to put that out there, that it's hard to diagnose from afar in that way, especially if you're not an expert on that sort of thing. But anyway, it's tempting to experience someone who has lack of empathy and to put a label on them that basically means that person just doesn't have empathy. But there's a good possibility, because most people fit into this other category, because there certainly are people who lack empathy. I've experienced them. I've treated them. They are particular. There's something different about them. It's usually relational traumas in the past, a little bit of biology in there as well. But anyway, most people, when they have impaired empathy, when you're experiencing lack of empathy from another person, it's usually in this much bigger category of people, which is literally like 95, 97% of people that lack empathy towards other people fit in this other category, where there's something getting in the way of their empathy. They could be terrified of rejection, so much so that they're only focused on themselves, and they don't even have the brain power to also think about other people's feelings. And so there's a possibility he's in that category, but I don't know.
I need to process the full situation.
Certainly.
Uh,
All right.
I mean, we certainly didn't see a ton of empathy from him towards her. Maybe they had a conversation like that away from the cameras, but it certainly didn't look that way. And if that's true, then wow. I mean, on the yikes scale, that's got to be up there somewhere. I don't know. If you didn't know this, I'm on Cameo. If you want to have me say happy birthday to one of your friends, or even to you, then you can go to Cameo and I will say happy birthday to you. It's a funny world that I can do that. And everyone out there, please take care of yourself, because you deserve it. You really, really do.